Good afternoon, good evening, depending on your location. Welcome, welcome. This is Faith Lies and Confusion. I am Godless Reggie, and this is NJ. How are you doing today, NJ? You're on mute.
Me and that darn mute button. Hey everybody, how we all doing today? I'm doing fabulous.
Also, happy Mother's Day, NJ, and to all the mothers out there that are watching today. Uh, it's actually a beautiful day today. I think I'm going to hit the streets once I get off of here. But today's episode is titled The Shroud of Turin. I know I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but it's a hard word for me to pronounce. I actually spelled it incorrectly as well. I put a D on it. Put an N on it in it instead of just a O-U-N. O-U-D. I spelled it Shroud of Turin. This is a subject I've heard numerous times people bring up. I actually wasn't really aware of what it was until I actually looked into it. Um, Normally, I don't have a topic for our show until about the last minute. So this particular topic I've probably been working on for about 2 days, or investing my time into. What do you know, NJ, about the Shroud of Turin off the top of your head?
I saw it as a kid on 60 Minutes and I sat down very, very happy to see it because I was like, finally, we got proof. They're going to prove that this human being existed. So maybe my grandma will stop dragging me down here to this damn church. We got proof that he's real. And I sat down and I watched this 60 Minutes and came to the same conclusion as them at the end. Again, bullshit, poppycock, and I'm mad that I took the time to watch this damn show and find out that again, no proof of this human being ever existed.
Right. I think that now that I know what it is, I think that they could have probably just named it something else, or titled it a picture or something like that, because it sounds like something extravagant, or something like a tourist. I don't know what the fuck it sounds like, but it doesn't sound like what it literally is. So I'm gonna read a little bit about it for all those who don't know, because when she just said it was on a 60 Minutes episode, when they allegedly discovered it, or when she did, I wasn't aware of that. Either I'm too young to remember, um, I wasn't born, or I just flat out don't remember it. But I'm gonna do some reading on it because I'm actually interested. Again, I didn't do a whole lot of research in it. From what it looks like to me, it's just like a carbon copy of a picture or so. Let's see. Now, this is according to Chat GPT, one of my favorite sources. Give me a moment. So, the Shroud of Turin. Let me make sure this is on so we can see it. Full screen layout. So, the Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth that bears the faint image of a man who appears to have suffered physical trauma in a manner consistent with crucifixion. It is traditionally believed by many to be the burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth, though this claim is highly debated. The key facts: location. The shroud is kept in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, and I guess that explains why it's called the Shroud of Turin. Dimensions: approximately 4 by 4 meters long by 1.1 meters wide. The images shows front and back views of a man with wounds corresponding to crucifixion, including marks on the wrist, feet, and side. The first recorded appearance, documented in the 14th century in France. The scientific studies: radiocarbon dating in 1988, tests by three labs dated to 1260 to 1390 AD, suggesting a medieval origin. Criticism of the dating: some argue the sample tested may have come from a repaired section of the cloth or it was contaminated. Other analysis: studies have been looked at pollen, blood stains, and the image's 3D properties, leading to mixed and inconclusive results. Controversy: believers regard it as a miraculous image and physical evidence of Jesus' resurrection. Skeptics consider it a medieval forgery, possibly an art piece of devotional object. Um, I somewhat agree because now that I'm reading it, right, if we just look at the scientific facts of it, it clearly states, right? I'm gonna go back over. Let me scroll down. One moment. The radiocarbon dating in 1988, tests by three labs dated to 1260 to 1390, suggesting a medieval origin, right? So if that's true, then flat out, it's not Jesus, however you look at it. How you feel?
I feel as though there's just nothing to feel. No, it's mm, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Okay. All right. Let's read a little bit more. So, the scientific perspective. Radiocarbon dating 1988. Tests by labs in Oxford, Urich. Oh, okay, so ice cream. All right. Tests by labs in Oxford, Urich, in Arizona dated the shroud to 1260 to 1390 AD. This suggested it originated in the Middle Ages, not the time of Christ, which I previously mentioned. Critics argue the sample might have been taken from a medieval repair patch, not the original cloth. Image formation theories: no clear consensus on how the image was made. The image has 3D qualities and is a negative. Features not easily explained by painting. Theories included contact with the corpse, chemical reactions, Maillard reaction. Some have proposed a burst of energy, radiation, or light, blood stain, and pollen analysis. Some tests claim the presence of human blood type AB, but this is debated. Pollen grains from plants native to Jerusalem and the Middle East were reportedly found. These claims are intriguing, but have been criticized for lack of reproducibility and proper peer review. Historical perspective. First appearance in the 1350s. The shroud first appeared in Library, France, in the hands of a knight named Geoffroy de Charny. The local bishop denounced it as a fraud even back then. Connection to Byzantine relics. Some researchers claim there are references to similar shrouds or burial cloths in Eastern Christian traditions, possibly as early as the 6th century. These connections are speculative and not universally accepted. Custody trail. It passed from Leary to the House of Savoy, eventually ending up in Turin. It has been publicly displayed only occasionally, most recently in 2015, and again briefly in 2020 during the pandemic via live stream. Religious perspective. Devotional significance. Many Christians see the shroud as a sacred relic, possibly the actual burial cloth of Jesus. It's been a focus of pilgrimage, prayer, and reflection. The Vatican's position. The Catholic Church does not claim, I repeat, the Catholic Church does not claim it is definitely the burial shroud of Jesus. It encourages veneration, believes its authenticity open to interpretation. Pope John Paul II called it a mirror of the gospel. The impact on faith. For believers, it's less about scientific proof and more about what it symbolizes: the suffering, death, and resurrection of Christ. For skeptics, its inconsistencies offer a reason for caution. Um, It sounds like to me, from just what I'm reading, that the Catholics definitely don't believe it as factual. It's more of not even oral tradition. I don't even know what the fuck I want to call it. Right? They flat out don't believe it. Right? They just look at it as something symbolic. And my interpretation, no different than how you look at the cross. One could say that's idolatry. Um, that's my personal opinion, but I just don't see how people take it as factual.
Me either. I don't understand how they take it as factual either, especially when you look at the chain of ownership, how it got to be where it is now, and everything that they had to do to get it. And the guy who originally had it, it was his granddaughter that gave it to the church, not his daughter, his granddaughter, which means they had to wait for him to die before he would part with it. And they were like, "Get it the hell out of here. We don't want it no more." So they sold it off. And uh and evidently it wasn't bringing in enough money. Like, did you won't find anywhere on the internet where somebody said, "Yes, I paid flight, I paid for flights, I paid for rooms, and I went to go see this sacred shroud over there in, where is it now? Turkey?"
In turn, and that would be in. Let me go back. Italy,
I'm
wasn't it? Let me see. Let me read it
Yeah,
again.
Italy. Okay, so
Italy.
it's in
Yes.
Italy. It's in Italy. From France to Italy, and they're not sure how France came by it because it just shows that some knight, and I can't pronounce their name, originated in the banner of the Abbey of Saint Denis, and when raised in battle, it signaled that no prisoner would be taken until it was lowered. And that's just the guy. That has to do with the guy and the battle that got the shroud to begin with. So this guy gets the shroud. He don't know what he has. He hasn't said that it had anything to do with Jesus. It's just something that he found while he was out there in the 100 Year Wars. What is the 100 Year Wars? You know what? Never mind. Don't get sidetracked. So, so they're out there. He's out there. He's doing things in the 100 Year War. And you know, in war, you grab shit. You just be grabbing shit. It might be
Hmm.
valuable someday. So he got this piece of cloth. He opened it up and said, "I don't, I don't want this. I can't get nothing for it." But his granddaughter did because they told enough lies about it long enough and made it valuable. And here's my thing: if this thing is
Hmm.
so sacred, how did it get caught in two fires? Not one fire, but two fires.
And how is it still there if either one of those shits happen? It's a cloth.
Right. So the first time, supposedly, it was in a silver and glass case. And supposedly, this silver and glass case saved it from the first fire with just a few scorch marks that, dun dun dun, listen to this, the nuns patched. The nuns of the church did the patching. This sacred old relic, the scientists, the preservationists, they didn't come do it. The nuns patched it up. And then in the second fire, where is that information on the second fire? I don't
You know,
remember.
you can put
But
it on the screen if you want to.
I I don't know where I put it. Where is it? But the second fire was share screen, share screen, window, this window, share.
So just click.
Okay.
Yep, there you go. So add to
And
screen. Boom.
uh but this is my favorite theory. Okay, so upon after the second fire, they came up with a theory that suggests that the body wrapped in the shroud emitted a flash of vacuum ultraviolet radiation, forming the perfect 3D negative image without scorching the fabric. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like people playing with photography way back when. Now, they might have used the dead body to practice the technique, but it sounded like people playing with photography way back when. Am I interpreting that wrong when I read
Uh
it?
no, I don't feel like you are, but you know what I keep thinking? Like when you talk about this fire and one, I just start thinking about something completely different. I start thinking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like if the same people would have dealt with this situation like that, oh man, the world would be a different place right now. Because you see, they just dog the Dead Sea Scrolls. They just let any old thing happen to it. Put tape on them, all kind of bullshit.
And it sounds to me like they did the exact same thing with this shroud. I asked I asked where it was found, how was it was acquired by Savoy, and then okay, why was such an important piece available to be destroyed by fire? Faced multiple fire related incidents throughout history, most notable in 1532 and 1997. That wasn't that long ago.
Well, you're right there. You dead on. Then that's just like it. But I just was looking at it from the point of view that you said they put it in a glass silver case. I'm like, God damn, you got extra security on that shit. You know what I'm saying? But the same basically thing happened.
Yeah, it said the intense heat caused the silver to melt, scorching parts of the cloth. Fortunately, the damage was limited, and nuns later repaired the burn marks
Oh,
with patches. So then I was curious about so did they find any blood or DNA on the shroud? And it says actually traces. Now remind you, this is a shroud that supposedly wrapped a dead body. The
uh
body
huh.
would have been
Bloody everywhere.
bloody, still, still emulating fluids in
Mm-hmm.
some way,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the burial practice of that time. And it said,
Plasma, all kinds of shit.
right, right. So you would think that it would be very easy to get this DNA and just nail it down.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't. They said they identified type AB blood, which is relatively rare but found in populations from the Middle East. As for DNA, analysis have revealed genetic material from multiple ethnic groups, including individuals from, notice how they worded that, individuals from. That means this DNA is not one sample, it's more than
Mm,
one kind of DNA. So
yes.
it's from Europe, the Middle East, Northeast Africa, and India. It suggests many people have handled the shroud over centuries, making it difficult to determine if any DNA belongs to the original figure depicted on the cloth. What you mean you can't figure it out?
And that's all, folks. I mean that's it. That last two fucking sentences that you said is completely the end of it. I mean, I'm gonna keep this stream going probably at least another 42 minutes or so.
Right.
But that's the emphasis on the whole fucking show. Literally. Because that's it. There's no more to that. There's no more to it. Too many motherfuckers' hands done been on that goddamn thing. Like you said, it been Asians' hands on it. It been white people's hands on it. It been black people's hands on it. The shit been flipped around like this. Like it been turned upside down and everything. You don't know whose it is. There's no way that you can definitively prove whose this is. What you could say is, oh, okay, well, that's God's way of touching the four corners of the earth. That would be your only argument in that case. I just made that up.
I don't even know how you can relate them to for that argument. I'm a little out of the loop because remember I've been an atheist all my life. I ain't never believed in no sky daddy, no Allah, nobody. It's always been me, myself, and I. And until I turned 18, my mama, because I needed her for
I
legal
tell you,
reasons.
I tell you how. I tell you how. How? Okay. I mean, I know that was a huge leap, but I'm gonna tell you something that's even greater than that. Okay. Two stories. One, I'm not gonna give the guy any credit. He may be watching right now, but what he said was is that he found a symbol in early Japanese language or Chinese language, something Oriental, that literally was just a triangle just a triangle. He said that is 100% proof that the Bible is true because that's what they meant when they said when the word of God should be spread to all four corners of the earth. I said, well, goddamn. I said, I ain't never heard no shit so idiotic before in my life because all that really proves is that okay, most civilizations started off making symbols as their language. It also proves that people from Asia have similar writing styles. It still has nothing to do with Australia. It has nothing to do with North America, South America, or none of that. So that's a great leap right there. I'm gonna give you another
And
one. Oh, go
okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Nope, nope. I don't want you to lose that thought. Go ahead.
So the other great leap is the Bible was written and all of the characters in there are black. And the reason why is because once the Noah's Ark story happened, everybody got wiped out from there. So everybody from Noah on is black.
And incestuous.
Hmm. And then white people too. Then the white people that was created thousands of years later wrote this story without knowing nothing about it in their language.
And I like the Anunnaki story better. At least that one is more believable. Just walking around, just breeding them lighter and lighter and lighter. Up, that baby's too dark. Throw it overboard. Throw it overboard.
That story makes more sense than the Mormon story even makes more even more makes more sense than both the stories I just said.
Yep. 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 Yep.
I say out of all the Christian stories, the Mormon story is the most believable. Even though most people are like you got to be fucking crazy. Mm-mm. It makes sense to me that I mean this is not true. It makes sense to me that Jesus and the devil will be brothers. That makes sense, especially if we all of God's children. They both His creations.
I don't know about your family game nights or your family time after church, but ain't nothing like some brothers getting together and some alcohol going out, a little broccoli here and there, and then just watch the show unfold. See who's still standing by the end of the night.
Okay, so I'm gonna play a video here for a minute, get a different perspective, a point of view. I'm
Good,
warning
it's gonna
people,
give me an excuse to go smoke.
definitely. I'm warning everyone here that this is more than likely going to be from a Christian point of view. Um, so let's see what they're talking about. Give me one moment.
Earth creates as much fascination and controversy as the Shroud of Turin. Is this the real of Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, an expert on the Shroud, believes the evidence for it is now beyond. So, my friend, that is why do you believe that?
Well, it's great on CBN News. I believe that based on the evidence, 102 scientific disciplines have spent over 600,000 hours of scientific study on the Shroud of Turin. And the great majority of them have concluded the Shroud is indeed 2,000 years old. And based on my biblical scholarship, I can assure is crucified.
Okay, so I just wanted to stop it right there for a second because that's definitely misinformation, big time. Uh, I've read nowhere that the Shroud of Turin or any scientist agrees that it's 2,000 years old. That actually contradicts anything that we just previously read. I do have other sites that I can bring up to cross-reference that will also correlate with what I'm saying. So when he's saying that a great majority of scientists agree that the material is 2,000 years old, that's a lie, a big old fat lie.
On April 3rd, AD 33. We know the exact date. It's the best established fact of the ancient world. And so, based on this scientific evidence, and many of it is breaking news for your audience, such as the fact that the Institute of Crystallography in Italy has confirmed using wide angle X ray scattering technology that the Shroud of Turin, which again is currently in Italy, but is indeed 2,000 years old. We have it to be the burial cloths of Jesus of Nazareth. Keep in mind for your audience, and I know your audience is full of Christian thinkers, all four Gospels mention the fact that.
So I got to stop it right then and there again, because so he's saying, oh, all this scientific evidence, but then he's saying right after that, he's cleaning it up with like, we believe. If you have scientific evidence to prove it, you no longer believe it. You know it. So if what he was saying was even partially true, he would no longer believe it. He would know it to be a factual situation. And it's not a factual situation, what he's saying. I'm not saying it from an outside bias. What I'm saying is just it's just not factually true. If it was, I would agree with him, but it's not.
that Joseph of Arimathea wrapped Jesus's body in a linen burial shroud. The Greek word is syndon, anathonia, and then sudarium. And so we believe based on the evidence, not based on failing, not based on some kind of vibe, but based on the evidence that we do indeed have a 2,000-year-old burial shroud. Now, why do we believe it's Jesus? Raj, unlike other burial shrouds, and we have many of them that we have discovered from the land of Israel. Think about Lazarus. He's buried in a burial shroud in John chapter 11 when Jesus raises him.
Again, what he's doing is he's mixing some truth with a whole lot of lies. He said again, Lazarus is buried somewhere. And then he said in the Bible, you can't say where Lazarus is buried at in reality on earth because you don't know. Right? That's if he existed, which I don't believe he did. But what he's not going to say, and I've never seen this before, he cannot say unless he's talking about in the Bible where Lazarus is born. I mean, excuse me, is buried. He cannot mention that in reality because it's not true if he does.
From the dead. The unique thing about the Shroud of Turin, which is fascinating, is there is an image that is superficially embedded in the 14-foot long burial cloth of the front and back of a 5'11" man, Jewish man with a beard who has experienced trauma that matches and corresponds with all of the details of Jesus's death by Roman crucifixion. And that's why we believe it is indeed the burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Can you give us a little bit of the details on the image itself? Like, how did that come to be?
This is what's fascinating to scientists, and this is what's fun for your audience. I know the 2 million subscribers of CBN News love to see.
He's lying again. It's not fascinating to scientists. Again, he's not notating or mentioning any scientists.
Ways that faith and reason intersect. And in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, which of course is attested to in the New Testament, we have this artifact, the Shroud of Turin, where you have the death, resurrection, all found in one artifact from history. This is fantastic. And Anea Laboratories in Rome, Paul Delazzo, spent 5 years of his scientific life studying how much light and energy would be required to give a flash view of energy, but It wasn't just the amount of energy, it was the speed. Think about when the Bible says we'll see Jesus in the twinkling of an eye. The ANEA laboratory said this 34,000 trillion watts of energy traveled in 1/40th of a billionth of a second to leave the image on the shroud. Otherwise, it would have scorched the image and destroyed it.
I'm just going to stop it for a second so I can play again what he said the scientist's name is, because I'm going to reference it, make sure he's not lying. Give me a second, y'all. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. Give me a moment.
Think about when the Bible says we'll see Jesus in the twinkling of an eye. The ANEA laboratory said this 34,000 trillion watts of energy Well, this isn't a pastor trying to prove anything. This is a light scientist and a first century selfie, if you will, of Jesus, of life, studying resurrection, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, which of course is attested to in the New Testament. We have this artifact, the Shroud of Turin, where you have the death, burial, and resurrection all found in one artifact from history. This is fantastic. And ANEA Laboratories in Rome, Paul Delazzo spent 5 years of his scientific life studying how much light energy would be required to leave a flash, if you will, a first century selfie, if you will, of Jesus of Nazareth in the Shroud of Turin. And again, this isn't a pastor trying to prove anything. This is a light scientist. And Paul Delazzo says it took 34,000 trillion watts of energy, but it wasn't just the amount of energy, it was the speed. Think about when the Bible says we'll see Jesus in the twinkling of an eye. The ANEA laboratory said this 34,000 trillion watts of energy traveled in 1/40th of a billionth of a second to leave the image on the shroud. Otherwise, it would have scorched the image and destroyed it. And the image is just 2 or 3 microns thin. It disappears if you go closer than 8 feet to the shroud. And so this is what has baffled scientists. Scientists have confirmed it is not a work of art. It's not man-made. No one's worshiping some kind of man-made idol or relic here. They have confirmed there's no pigment, there's no dye, but they have also said we have no idea how this happened. Not explain how the image is embedded in the linen cloth. They can't duplicate it.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. No, I know for a lot of folks, it's a West. It feels like the Holy Grail. This feels Indiana Jonesy. But I've talked with you obviously over the years, and the more that the evidence comes out, it's like, guys, this might be legit. And I know you believe it 100%. But here's the most important question: what if it is the shroud? Then what does that mean?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to remind your audience. And thanks for having me. Number one, and we wouldn't have a New Testament if there wasn't evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. Remember, in the wrist, unless I see the wound in the side, I will not believe. And what's awesome about Jesus, he meets us in our doubts. He doesn't shame us.
Because he can't stay on topic, right? It's like he's saying some things, like he's mentioning a few things, and then every opportunity he gets, he goes back to preaching, right? So what he's doing is he's trying to confuse you. And I mean, I guess it is Sunday, but I don't really feel like hearing him fucking preach. This is almost over. But the scientist he looked up, the scientist that he mentioned, I can't find any information on Paul Delazzo whatsoever. Have you, NJ?
Yes, he pronounced it wrong. It's pretty much Paulo de Lazaro. Actually, there was 5 of them that did that study that he's talking about. It was the Paulo one, Danielle Muro, Enrico Nechelletti. You know what? I'm gonna just put them in the comments because I can't read these names. I can't read these names. If it's not Mary or Paul, I can't read it. I can't read it. That's some bullshit.
I don't know
There's
if
the
it,
five
okay, so
scientists that did it. But
okay,
anyway,
yeah, I see it now. Paulo D. Can you Lazaro, yeah, and Danielle Murrah. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because that just lets me know that number one, he don't even know what the fuck he's talking about.
right. So what they did was they found that the burst of vacuum ultraviolet photons could account for the thin uh, coloration depth and the presence of an image, even in linen areas not in direct contact with the body. However, they also noted that replacing the full shroud image using a single laser would be impossible due to the required radiation power. My thing is also, did they have did they have ultraviolet in a vacuum back then? Like in the 1800s when this was originally found, or was that the 1600s? I forget. I'm already forgetting dates, but that's not the point.
No, it's not because
Tech-
either way, that's still correct. Either way.
the technology isn't matching with the year the shroud was supposedly acquired. The technology isn't matching the year the shroud was supposedly found. And like, I know that they like to say like technology didn't happen until the books say that it happened,
Hmm.
but we all know that that's not true. A lot of times technology is working for 20, 30 years before the books find out about it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I'm gonna give you a story that we can compare that with, right? I like to use Islam when I compare stories to people, right? So what I tell people is like when we look at the Nation of Islam, when we're talking about prison, I'm only talking about prison. You can clearly see that that's a gang, right? But you can't realize that when we're talking about any form of Christianity. To your point, right? So now when we talk about Islam, they believe that the first thing that Allah, God, would ever created was a pen. You know that's not true. You know that's not true.
I thought it was the burning bush. I like the
No,
burning bush. Light fire to the bush. Let's
Muslims
all embrace
believe
the fumes.
Muslims believe they think the first thing that God ever created before the heavens and earth was a pen. And the reason why they believe that is to make the Bible true. I don't know you like what that means. Well, some people probably like what that means. You gotta understand. They got their religion from Christianity and Judaism, right? So the reason why they do that is because in the beginning there was the word. The only way that can be true is if the first thing that God or Allah ever created was the pen. Now, in my brain, I know in them too that that's a creation that human beings made. You know that. But you going to play stupid to act like that's true because you're scared to go to hell. And from being from the United States or from a Christian point of view, it's easy to see that. But what you just said, it's not. But it's the same fucking thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, it yeah, it's still not making no sense. 60 minutes was still right, and that was, oh my gosh, I was a kid. I was a kid. I was a kid. I was a kid.
It's crazy how, because of the country that we're from, that you're allowed to willfully spread misinformation right on TV. Well, I don't know about these days. Maybe it's a little tougher now, but in those days, Yeah, it's definitely was legal. Nobody had an issue with it. We didn't care, you know. But nowadays it's a little different because you know how I just looked up and just read off of Chat GPT and whatever source that you're reading from, right? You can easily just look up these facts, right? They're telling you that, but just listen to what your preacher told you, TV told you, or your or your mammy told you, and that's just crazy to me.
Teachers be wrong, moms be wrong, preachers be wrong. What do they scream
Uh-huh.
on the TikTok streets all the time? What's your source? I need your source. I'm like, I don't know. I've read it on the internet somewhere. Like, you guys are repeating what you heard from the pastor, and I'm not asking your pastor's source. I'm just taking you at your word. That that's how you believe it to be. So why is it the words that I use to counter what you're saying need a better source than your source?
Right. And then that's not ever the end of the conversation, right? Because the second that you provide any form of source, they're going to tell you, I don't care if it's from eyewitness testimony. Not saying that's the most significant form of evidence. It's actually one of the worst, but they will proceed to tell you that your source is bogus. So I don't really see why they even ask that question. It's a waste of
Me,
time.
and I refuse to answer it because they don't pay me. So why would I answer your question?
I will for two reasons. I'm petty. Well, three. Petty, trying to win the argument. And more than likely, I'm sitting there right in front of it. Right? I'm sitting right there in front of it. I'm sitting right here where I'm at. If I have to come out my room to come get in front of my computer and you ask to see the source, click. I'm gonna give it to you. Now, a lot of times, some of the shit I say is memorized, but not correctly, right? Like I'll know what like the Bible say, or I'll know where to look. Like I gave you the example about being a SME. I'll know where to look, but I won't know it word for word. Then I have to get up and go figure it out. So yeah, if you ask me, then I'll tell you. I'll tell you. And what I was telling you offline, I gotta show you that site. That shit sweet. That shit is sweet. It's another one that disproves whatever claim that a person wants to make, and it shows added stuff and removed stuff. Last night, somebody had turned me on to that. And it was interesting. I had never seen nothing like that.
I can't wait to get into it. I love stuff that helps with the rabbit hole because there's some rabbit holes I gave up on because I couldn't prove nor disprove. I just start getting frustrated with the subject sometimes.
Well, when we're talking about a particular, like when we're talking about a particular religion, I can disprove it. The other ones, I really can't because I don't know them that good. But I would just go ahead and say any Abrahamic religion, I can easily disprove. There's subcategories too, but the rest of them I can't. Hinduism, I can't disprove. That's harder than a motherfucker to disprove. And the reason why is because they're not gonna try to sit there and prove to you that it's real.
Well,
Paganism too.
and paganism, I'm like, paganism is pretty much just us. They're atheists.
In a way, Hindus too, and that's what I'm saying. They're hard to beat. They're hard to disprove because they're not gonna argue with you that is real. They not. They don't believe the same way that we're accustomed to believe, or well, not saying if you ever believe, but they're not. They don't believe that there's this almighty creator that's just all loving, that's just always good, that just knows everything. No, they don't think like that. They kind of have their religious processes are similar to like uh, native ones, and that's any place you talk about Native Americans, South Americans, uh, Africans. Their shit is similar to theirs in a way.
Yeah. it's Mother's Day, so I've been hearing a lot of stories about people's mothers, and someone just shared the story about uh, a great great granny. Now, in my mind, that's amazing because great grannies don't be hanging around a long time for you to be hanging out with them, having conversations and all that stuff. They were telling me about this snake that stayed in her house because she lived in another country and she had the bamboo and clay house.
Hmm.
So snakes got in it all the time, and they were saying that after she passed away, the snake that she would never let them kill that got in the house never saw it again. It said like the snake just moved out, never to be seen again. And I'm sitting there going, now see, when somebody tells you a story like that, do you sit down to your handy dandy laptop and try to disprove it, or do you just accept their story? That's their family story. Like they had a pet snake that ran free in the house. I had a pet squirrel
Hmm.
that ran free in the house, so why can't they have a pet snake? You know what I mean? Not everything needs to be disproved. Sometimes you just got to hear the story and accept it's a story.
That's true. That's true. I never looked at it like that. To me, what you're saying is very similar to when I talk to people who are Jewish, right? That's how they feel about it. Um, Now that you brought that up, that made me think of a lot of family stories that I've heard, and they are so ridiculous. I'm gonna tell you one. So my grandmother, she was the oldest of her sisters. Her sisters and shit is way younger than her. They closer to my mom age, every last one of them. They maybe 3 or 4 years apart, 5 or 6 at the most from my mom. So my grandma, she kind of grew up with her aunts and uncles and shit like that. So they were religious as fuck. They were superstitious as fuck. They believed in the root man and shit like that. They was from the country. Um, they told me that because my family is one of two original black families from this place called Chincoteague Island, Virginia. Right? My great grandmother still
I
has a
still want to
name.
go visit that island because it looks amazing online. But keep going.
It is. It is. I've been there so many times, but the mosquitoes are rough, right? So, um, it's a real island. It's off the coast, off the peninsula of Virginia. Um, that particular island was owned by the natives. Um, a bunch of black people went there at one point, from my understanding. I don't know if this is true. Um, there's nothing but rich people there now, so there's really no black people there. When I was a kid, my older cousins, which are my mom's first cousins, again, my grandmother's older than her sisters, so my mom is significantly older than all her cousins. You know what I'm saying? So we would go down there and shit, and my cousins, they was the only black people there, like literally. You know what I'm saying? But the point of this whole story is that there used to be stories about treasure, pirates, and all kinds of shit in this area because where it's at, because it's in Virginia, um, because it's an island, because pirates more than likely came there. Um, I would say they did for sure, for sure, for sure. I don't know if people have ever really found treasure there, but the story goes is that they found it. It was an uncle, which is like my great great uncle because it's my grandma's uncle. I knew him, but he was old as fuck, right? Allegedly, it was her, my great grandmother, him, and a couple of their other siblings and shit, and they found the treasure. But if you say anything negative or do anything bad, the treasure will fall down farther into the hole where you can't get it. And they had it. And my uncle, they used to call him Johnny Boy. He said something and it just disappeared. And that's the story. And I
Really?
believed it.
And I thought my family's tales about treasures and rainbows was a lot.
I can go further. I got this cousin. He's my grandma's first cousin, but he's the same exact age as my mom. His name is Hygius. Allegedly, he sold his soul to the devil, and I know how he did it. So this is how you do it. They say that you got to catch a stray black cat and you got to bull him while he's alive. And the very first bone that comes to the top of the water, now you got to understand, these are some country motherfuckers I'm telling you about. These people eat muskrats. These people eat all kind of shit that you ain't used to accustomed to. These people that grew up in outhouses and shit like that. At best, they got cesspools, so they're not used to the shit that you used to, right? So shit like that to them ain't nothing. You feel me? So you got to catch this black stray cat. It has to be a stray cat. And when you boil him, and he has to be black, when the first bone comes to the top of the water, you take that bone and put it in your back left pocket and you sold your soul to the devil. And they say he did that. And as a reward for doing that, he would always get out of trouble. He would get caught with guns, drugs, and things like that. And they would let him go. And my family, they really believe that shit. I believed it too. I can
I
tell you a
ain't
whole
seen
bunch of
any
crazy
black
stories.
cats lately, but I want to form an experiment. I do. I be wanting to experiment.
And these stories are too good for me just to make up. So yeah, as kids, we always used to play with. We always had a Ouija board available to play with as kids. Always.
See, I could only play with the Ouija board at my cousin's house because my mom was like, "Oh fuck that shit, never in my house." Oh hell no. But if I went to my cousin, they had it. It was right there. And yes, we gathered around. We made the room as spooky as we could during the daylight hours because we were all being babysat together by an older cousin. So
It is
we
crazy.
tried to make it spooky. But yeah, that's the only place I could play with a Ouija board. Did that. I never ever touched the Ouija board though. I never wanted to be the person with their hands on and asking the questions. I never wanted to be that person. They would be like, "Which? Go ahead, ask her the question." I'd be like, "Mm. You go ahead. You go ahead." I had my mom's superstitions, cause that's who raised me.
So again, now I'm on the outside looking in. I see the situation in as this. It is perfectly okay to practice all the witchcraft and sorcery that you want as long as you believe in God or say God or believe in Jesus or whatever. It's okay. But if you don't do that, then something's wrong with you. Even if you don't practice witchcraft and sorcery, if you just don't believe in Jesus and God, something wrong with you.
Right. Isn't that the same thing they used to say about slaves that wanted to be free? Something was wrong with them.
That's what I just told a guy yesterday but he was arguing about LGBTQ shit. And I'm telling him, I'm like, listen, bro, we got the Proud Boys, you got the KKK, and these people want direct smoke with you and are asking you for it. And what you're doing is you're praying for them. You're like, God, please take it away from them. They don't know no better. But now you're going on and you're picking on somebody that's telling you, I don't want no problem with you. Just leave me the fuck alone. I said, you're a fucking whole sucker. I said, you're a sucker. I said, these people ain't even fucking with you. You picking on the smaller guy because you mad because the big homie's fucking with you. I said, you weird, man. He like, but he's like, but what they doing is immoral. I said, why are you concerned with these people's genitalia, bro? I said, does it affect you? He's like, yeah, it affects me because I gotta see him. I said, listen, you gotta see the Proud Boys and the KKK, and you ain't doing shit.
Not a blessed thing.
He
Not a
like, but
blessed thing.
he like, but down the line it bothers me. I said, listen, right now, if they wiped out every gay person, every LGBTQ person on Earth, and every trans person or everybody in that community, tomorrow would be some more. I said
Yes,
tomorrow. Tomorrow.
yes.
I said I don't understand how y'all don't see that. I said, listen, if say There's there's other species on Earth that exhibit the same behavior. Somebody did hit me with a good one. I'm gonna tell you a person that hit me with a good one, though, MJ, that I don't got an answer for, and I think they might be right, or well, not right, not right. Well, I just don't have an explanation for this. So when I say that, they agree with me. They're like, "You're right, that's true." But out of all the other species on planet Earth, do they naturally? I mean, wrong choice of words. Do they go back periodically or whatever for good to heterosexual activity? I'm like, good one.
Well,
Not humans.
I mean, for the procreation of the species, I guess, like if they thought their numbers were getting low in some way, shape, or form, I guess for the moment and the sake of procreation, they could go back to the old way of doing things, but they don't they don't have turkey basters. We humans have turkey basters. So we don't necessarily have to go through the act. We can just, you know, dude can dribble in a cup, turkey baster, insert, squeeze.
Hmm. But this is what they're saying. They're saying like, okay, I'm just gonna pick a species. Right? Say we're talking about whatever form of monkeys or uh, ape, because I know this is one or the other. I've seen it on National Geographic. I just don't want to speak incorrectly. I know it's one or the other that exhibit this behavior. Right? I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. It's not my business. But what he's basically saying, because I know he's seen some shit on National Geographic, and I'm gonna have to agree with him a little bit, right? Sometimes when we're talking about these particular groups of primates, they exhibit this behavior a lot of times to dissolve disputes. He didn't say that, but I know that's what he means. They do it to dissolve disputes, not always just for procreation. But what he's also simultaneously saying is that okay, yeah, they may just do it for that, but then he like they going back and doing them. He's saying that they're not staying in that state of mind, is what he's saying. And I'm gonna have to agree with him because I've never really heard of a situation where a species other than human has decided that, or I don't know if it's a I don't yeah, I don't really think it's a decision. I don't know. I'm just trying not to speak incorrectly or be offensive. But I don't know of any other species that that's what they're into and state. So I'm gonna have to partially agree with them a little bit. Not that I can prove anyway.
Uh, Bonobos, uh, they do it. Dolphins, penguins,
Right.
rams.
But do they stay that way?
Uh, it says the females of the Japanese macaques, females often form temporary same-sex partnerships. The rams, about 10% of males exhibit exclusive same-sex preferences.
Okay, there it is.
Penguins, some male pairs have been observed raising chicks together. Dolphins, known for same-sex pair bonding and affectionate behaviors. And bonobos engage in same-sex interactions as part of social bonding.
Okay,
So
so
we have proof that some of them are temporary.
I didn't know until I just looked at it now that you know how because I'm an Aries, right? And our symbol is okay. So you see the faith, lies, and confusion thing. I am an Aries, and that's why that is the symbol. But now that I see it on the screen, when it says Rams, Ovis Aries, hmm, interesting. Never knew that.
Thought you get a kick out of that.
Reminds me of the rhinoceros. Yeah, I never knew that. Yeah, I'm gonna play the rest of this video and listen to this man finish lying, because that's what he's doing.
Yes, lots.
I don't know if he, I don't know, I don't know if he knows it or not, but he definitely is. He may not know.
of Jesus.
Into the second
Oh
to
my God.
leave the image on the shroud. Otherwise, it would have scorched the image and destroyed it. And the image is 3 microns thin. It disappears if you go closer than 8 feet to the shroud. And so this is what has baffled scientists. Scientists have confirmed it is not a work of art and some kind of man-made idol or relic. They have confirmed there's pigment, there's no, but they have also said we have no idea how this happened. The best rocket scientists of our day, Raj, cannot explain how.
I know for a lot of folks, especially, let's just call it American Christian perspective, and myself included, there's this immediate pushback. Was oh, this feels like the Holy Grail. This feels Indiana Jonesy. But I've talked with you obviously over the years, and the more that the evidence comes out, it's like, guys, this might be legit. And I know you believe it 100%. But here's the most important question: what if it is?
And we wouldn't have a New Testament if there wasn't evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. Remember, no one expected Jesus to rise from the dead.
One of them.
And they're shocked. And remember Thomas in John 20, unless I see the nail prints in the wrists, unless I see the wound in the side, I will not believe. And what's awesome about Jesus, he meets us in our doubts. He doesn't shame us. He sharpens us when we doubt. And so let's not be overly pious. I say this in love to many of my Christian brothers and sisters who are watching. Oh, I have faith. I don't need evidence. I don't need artifacts. I don't need archaeology. I don't need Indiana Jones Christianity. Well, the original authors of the New Testament did see that he was alive from the dead before they authored, the 8 or 9 authors of the New Testament, what Jesus did. Remember, John said, I've written all these so that you believe, so that you believe. In 1 John 1, he said, that which we have heard, which we.
That's enough for him. He's lying. The book of John was actually started being written in 90 AD. It was completed in 120 AD. And John himself was dead in 99 AD, 100 AD, depending on what version of the story you believe. So John could not have written John because he wasn't even alive. So I had to go ahead and stop him because he's lying. He's preaching. I don't want to fucking hear that shit. Otherwise, I would have went to church today.
Good implementation of executive decision.
Right. I tried my best to keep listening to that shit, but I just couldn't take it. The misinformation was through the roof. I couldn't take it no longer.
I think that's why my YouTube be so frustrated with me. It's like, will you please just watch one video to completion? Because I might let one lie slide, but when they get to the second and the third, I'm like, get it out of here. Get it off my screen. Next.
I'm trying to work on my patience, and that shit was really, I was forcing it bad because I'm just sitting there just listening to it. It's like, pow, pow, lie, pow, 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 preach, pow, pow. It's like, I can't take it no more.
That's how I be on my side of the phone when I be listening to TikTok lives. I be sitting here like, that's a lie. That's a lie. Where my laptop at? Now I gotta go find my laptop. And my laptop is at wherever my grandson is, which is always noisy. He don't, I don't know how he does it. He likes noise over stimulation, but at the same time, he has a terrible coping mechanisms for the overstimulation. He's 8. He's not supposed to make sense. We're supposed to help him make sense. But for right now, this is where we're stuck at. So I don't like going to sit by my laptop because it's too noisy. I usually like to come up here and listen to the lives because then I'll pay attention better.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to keep a notebook with me, but that got old because I found myself never going back to the notebook. I would just, I don't remember it, so I'm going to just leave it alone. Just let the lies stay in my brain. But then I found myself one day, a long time ago, I started repeating some of the lies. And I said, you know what? Let me sit my ass down and get my head straight because I'm starting to repeat known lies. I know that's a lie.
Hmm. I understand. I got corrected yesterday too. I don't know where I heard that from, but I'm pretty sure. Well, in my mind, I thought I read that, and I thought I made a whole stream on that. And when I did the stream with you, obviously, I thought that's what it said, but obviously I was wrong, or they didn't change the information. We talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? I was saying like, yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls was written in 5 different languages, and shit, and I tried to name every last one of them, and I forgot too. I forgot Latin, and I forgot. It's one I can't even fucking pronounce this shit. I would have to look it up again. But I thought that fifth one, what I had read a few months ago, I swear it said Arabic along with Aramaic, but it's not. That's not what I read yesterday. Again, when I like fact checked it and looked again. Mm-mm. So,
It beats that way. That's how it works.
hmm
Your mind be remembering what it wants to remember, like however it squeezes it in that corner to reserve it for you to recall it later, and you will recall information incorrectly. That's why they test us in school. Yes, you studied it. Yes, you memorized it. But can you
hmm
recall what you need to recall when you need to recall it? Aha! That's the problem.
that's true because you can't, especially the longer time passes, your mind will make up shit. Like I got this friend, right? I'm not gonna say what her name is or whatever. But she told me that one time. She was like, I remember that day when your grandma came over and she had brought a bunch of blue crabs, right? And they fell out of the cooler and they started running all over the place. That can't be true. That can't be true. And the reason why that cannot be true is because we're talking about in Ohio. So there's no way that you can get that product. Now I know again because my family is from the Eastern Shore, right? As I mentioned earlier, right? And I have plenty of summers there, plenty of times getting tore by mosquitoes. I know in my mind that the second that you catch them fuckers, you must cook them while they are alive. You have to. We literally have to stick our hand in the fucking bucket and take the dead ones out and throw them out. You have to. And this is within 5 minutes of bringing them from wherever the fuck we got them from. And the reason why is because if you don't and you cook them, the bacteria set in their body so bad because they have an exoskeleton, it will poison you and you will die. So there's no way that can be true. It's not true. But for some reason, her mind remembers that. And I think the reason why is because she's probably seen my grandma actually bring some crabs that was already cooked. You know what I mean? And she probably was aware of that. See, people think that the species that I'm talking about is red. No, they're blue. They're just red after you cook them because the person that put seasoning on the motherfuckers probably more than likely Old Bay. So you know what I mean?
Gotta get that old bay. It
But
ain't bay without the old bay.
oh, I found something better than that. I found something better than that. Food is it okay? So they have this chain that's like one and the same. Meatland and Food Line. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, they got this crab boil that come in this little container with this top on it. Psh, once you taste that shit, you will never want no motherfucking Old Bay again. I'm telling you. I didn't fucking have that shit in J until I was about, let's say 43, probably talking about 30, 36, 36, 37, something like
We
that. And I'm telling you,
we having cheesesteaks today, but Food Line is right down the road. I'm gonna go find that, and we're gonna try some
hmm
crab boils next week. We're gonna try
uh-huh.
it.
That
We're
shit
gonna
is
try it.
fire. Fire. So my one cousin that still stays down there, right? He he's funny. He's a funny dude, right? His name is Jojo, and I'm mentioning his name because this is what he do. He called himself Mr. Nasty Crab. He didn't live down there his whole life. If he was from fucking the Gulf, he would be the real Bubba Shrimp. He would be the real one. But he's from the Bay though. You know what I'm saying? He's from the Eastern Shore. Listen, my dude. Well, rent a boat. Don't let him get no money to rent a boat now. It's over with. We're talking about bushels and bushels and bushels and bushels of fucking crap. See, growing up, I never did the boat thing, right? We would get a stick, string, whatever, primarily chicken, but whatever, a motherfucking bucket and a net and get to going on the shore. You feel what I'm saying? Oh man, listen, this dude go rent him a boat, set him up some traps. One day, come back, he making $5,000-6,000 off that shit. Because when you're in Chincoteague or when you're in that area in the summertime, right? You're still in tourist areas from Ocean City because Ocean City's not that far, right? On top of the fact that Chincoteague is a tourist place as well, right? But Ocean City is bigger and better and nicer. So anywhere down that strip within 100, 150 miles, Delaware, Maryland, or Virginia, you got people coming for the crabs, man. And that damn the bushel is worth well over $200 now. So, man, if I stay down there, I'd be doing that shit too.
Oh my gosh. Are you for real? They're
I mean,
doing that now?
and
200 for a bushel?
he charges 60 for a dozen. 60. And this was when I just told you
I
I
gotta
had that
go
crab
back
boat.
to Jersey. I gotta go back to Jersey. This is why I can't make no money where I am. Everything that I did as a kid, you know, just so I didn't have to ask mommy, I could be making a killing
A
right now.
killing. And you could charge double here. And this was 5, 6, 7 years ago. We went down there on vacation for the 4th of July when my grandma died. She wanted her her ashes to be spread either in the bay or in the oceans. So that's what the fuck we did. Man, listen, we couldn't wait to get down there. Me and my brothers and sisters, because we've been eating him our whole life. You know what I mean? We couldn't wait to get down there to see his ass, right? Man, first day we fucking got down there, him and my aunt, which is my grandma's sister. We go over there to their trailer. He outside. He just got back outside cooking it because again, you got to cook that shit right in there. They cooking it right in the damn grass. Man, listen, that shit was so fucking good. Oh my god. But yeah, shout out to my cousin Jojo. Man, and then he was telling me then. I'm like, he's like, well, how many you want? You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh, cuz I'll hook you up. I'm like, well, I got like 60, $70, right? He's like, I usually charge a dozen for 60, but shit. He gave me like 20. But yeah,
Okay.
them bushels, yeah, the bushels probably got like 60, 70 of them in it, maybe 200.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely out of the loop.
Telling you. I'm telling you, man, you can make a killing off that shit.
I need to get my mom together and throw her on a boat and be like, "Come on, mommy, we gonna relive your childhood real quick. Come on, let's do that stuff that I didn't like doing that stuff as a kid. Like
Why
when the
not?
aunties and uncles got together and they went back to the lakes because they're from a place in New Jersey called Paradise Lakes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they were born, grew up. So, you know, snapper turtles, fish out the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody learned how to swim as soon as they could walk because wasn't nobody coming to save you if you fell in the lake. Wasn't nobody coming to save you, so you better know how to swim. It just, and and my mom still to this day, you give her a fishing pole, a boat, you give her some bricks and some mortar, you whatever you give her, she gonna come up with some creative shit that's just money to other people, and she
Mm-hmm.
just be doing that shit for fun, and I just be like looking at her like, oh my goodness, we could have made a killing off of you, mommy. We messed up having you at a 9 to 5 every day. You could have made us so much more if we had just let you be free.
Mm-hmm. True story.
Those damn health benefits. Health benefits for a bunch of kids that never got sick. We never got sick until we got grown and off her insurance.
Basically. I'm gonna read a little bit more and I'm gonna get out of here because my phone is ringing off the chain.
Ooh, have
Okay,
fun with that.
so I'm gonna read
I've never
from.
been so happy to have a dry phone. Thank you for making sure I appreciate my dry phone.
Okay, I'm gonna give it like 5 minutes of reading. Give me 1 second, and then I'm getting out of here. I'm hungry too. So, the Shroud of Turin, also known as the Holy Shroud, is a length of linen cloth that bears a faint image of the front and back of a naked man. Because details of the image are consistent with traditional depictions of Jesus of Nazareth after his death by crucifixion, the shroud has been venerated for centuries, especially by members of the Catholic Church, as Jesus' actual burial shroud upon which his image was miraculously imprinted. The human image on the shroud can be discerned more clearly in a black and white photographic negative that in its natural sepia color, an effect discovered in 1898 in Seconda Pia, by Seconda Pia, who produced the first photographs of the shroud. This negative image is associated with the popular Catholic devotion of the holy face of Jesus. The documented history of the shroud dates back to 1354 when it began to be exhibited in the new collegiate church of Liry, a village of the north central France. The shroud was denounced as a forgery by the Bishop of Troyes, Pierre de Arcis, in 1389. It was acquired by the House of Savoy in 1453 and later deposited in a chapel in Chambéry, where it was damaged by fire, as NJ mentioned earlier, in 1532. In 1578, the Savoys moved the shroud to their new capital in Turin, where it has remained ever since. Since 1683, it has been kept in the Chapel of the Holy Shroud, which was designed for the purpose by architect Garino Guarini, and which was connected to both the Royal Palace and the Turin Cathedral. Ownership of the shroud passed from the House of Savoy to the Catholic Church after the death of former King Umberto II in 1983. The microscopic and forensic expert Walter Macron found, based on his examination of samples taken in 1978 from the surface of the shroud using adhesive tape, that the image on the shroud had been painted with a dilute solution of red ochre pigment in a gelatin medium. Macron also found that the apparent bloodstains were painted, oh my goodness, with vermilion pigment, also in a gelatin medium. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read this whole paragraph again. The microscopic and forensic expert Walter Macron found, based on his examination of samples taken in 1978 from the surface of the shroud using adhesive tape, that the image on the shroud had been painted with a dilute solution of red ochre pigment in a gelatin medium. Macron also found that the apparent blood stains were painted with vermilion pigment, also in a gelatin medium. Macron's findings were disputed by other researchers, and the nature of the image on the shroud continues to be debated. In 1988, radiocarbon dating by 3 independent laboratories established that the shroud dates back to the Middle Ages between 1260 and 1390. So I think that pretty much sums it up. Um, it's a forgery, however you look at it. Either situation, if you want to believe that it's painted, which I do believe, it's painted. If you want to believe the carbon dative evidence, the scientific evidence, both of these are kind of forms of scientific evidence, but I'm going to just go ahead and say that most believers will dismiss that first one, which I don't see how you can. But even if you go with the scientific evidence of the situation, it dates to 1260 at best. So that would leave about 1150 something odd years that is off by. Maybe my math is off here too, but however you look at it, it's impossible for that to have been anything to do with Jesus Christ, period.
Anything at all. Nothing. 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 I asked how, like, who decided that the shroud was Jesus, and it came to the conclusion that its association with him was not officially decided by any single person or institute. Instead, the belief emerged through a combination of historical tradition, religious devotion, and visual interpretation. Whose visual interpretation? Nobody knows what this person looked like.
Exactly. Do you know why nobody knows what this person looks like?
Because it
Because they
never
never
existed.
fucking existed. Right. Right. A lot of times when I'm reading to myself, it's like blah 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 blah. That's why I had to read that last part over and over. Well, it was only twice, so it was only over and over. But it makes no sense. The first sentence that you read uh, at the beginning of the stream, like I said, summed up the whole fucking thing. What you got going on the rest of today?
Absolutely nothing. Like I said, we are getting treated to food truck food. I'm having cheesesteaks. I'm having cheesesteaks. Other people might be having tacos and shit, but I'm having cheesesteaks. I'm having Philly cheesesteaks in Georgia. It, that's a pretty good feat to get the right meat with the right bread all the way down here in Georgia. I'm looking forward to that.
I bet you are. I tell you this too. The best cheesesteak I ever had, I got it from Texas.
See,
The
see,
best one.
it's funny you said that because the best fried chicken I ever got in my entire life was a gas station in Texas ran by a bunch of Spanish people. And when I
I
tell
swear.
you that fried chicken was so fire, like we literally, okay, we bought each of us 5 pieces of chicken, 5 chicken wings. We got all the way home, ate them bitches. By the time we was each on our last one, we was grabbing keys to go back and get a full bucket.
Hmm. What's the name of that gas station that's like in the eastern the areas I mentioned? I'm sure it's in Delaware because I've been to one in Delaware. Um, what's the name of it? It's a franchise of gas stations.
Wawa?
Listen, they motherfucking chicken is fire. Them breast strips, I be trying to tell motherfuckers up here about that shit. That Wawa ain't no hoe. Ain't no hoe. Especially when it be like you said, either the Spanish owned ones or the goddamn Indians that be up. Man, listen, for all y'all whiteys out there, especially you black people out there, do not think that black people cook chicken the best. No, it's not true. It's not true. Your grandma don't know shit. I'm gonna tell you a different story. The best chicken, just chicken, not just if we just say chicken, not fried. Well, matter of fact, I say we'll just take fried out of it. The best non-fried chicken I've ever had is my white person. Listen, I got invited to this graduation party, right? And the only reason why I was down with the shit is because this is when I used to drink a lot, and I knew it was gonna be an abundance of goddamn liquor there. I didn't know a motherfucker that was gonna be there and didn't give a fuck, right? So listen, we get there and I see some shit I ain't never seen before in my life. I'm at least 28, 29 years old at this point. These motherfuckers like, hey, why don't you come in here to food in here and shit? Oh, three things, right? So I go in like the little shed and shit. No one there is black except for me and the person I'm with, right? I go in the shed and shit. They're like, here, you want some of this keg? Now I've seen kegs like on TV and shit like that. I never like had none of it. So I'm sitting there pumping. Boom. They got this tray with what I would describe as like shredded chicken. It was like cut up. So they're like, you want some of that? I'm like, yeah. I take a bite of that shit. Juiciest shit I ever seen in my life. I go outside. I go outside. They got the damn. I had never seen some country shit. These motherfuckers got a hole in the ground, like all these little limestones and shit, like around it, like a landscaping motherfucker came through and did this shit. It's all just perfect and shit. Ain't no grass on that motherfucker or nothing. There's a whole fucking chicken. Like we had the goddamn Arab story, like a rotisserie motherfucker just turning and shit. I said, the fuck is that? I ain't never seen no shit like that in my life. And I be telling people that's the best fucking chicken I ever had. Then look, they like, you want to play cornhole with us? Like, hell no, I don't know what the fuck that is. It don't sound like nothing good to me though. I'm like, cornhole. Cause their comedy is a little bit different than this. You know what I'm saying? Some of the shit they think funny, I don't think funny. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. I'm not saying one is better than another, but some shit I'm just not with. So I'm thinking this is some bullshit, and they're telling me about it, right? It's like, you want to play cornhole? I'm like, what? So I go over there. They're like, let's come into the yard and just play. So what they're playing to me at this point is horseshoes. This is what I'm thinking they done. That's just what this game looked like to me. Except for some motherfucking ramp on this bitch, like some wood shit, right? But it's like bean bags and shit. I said, oh, okay. First time I play, I win. They're like, oh, you're just an underarm Randall Cunningham, aren't you? I'm like, they're like, you a damn lie. They're like, you know, you done played this game before. I said, I ain't never heard of no shit like this before in my life. Listen, I had the time of my fucking life. I had such a good fucking time. Oh my god, man! It took me a few minutes to warm up and shit because like we sitting in the car, right? It was funny, right? It was me, this girl I grew up with, and this white girl, and she the one that was really invited. So we sitting in the car, we just sitting there just looking like it's about 200 white people, right? We just sitting there. So the dude come up to the car, right? He like, why y'all not coming in? Because we're black. I said, come on. So once they reached that shit, gave me a cup and gave me some chicken and shit. I was cool after that. I was cool.
My
I had a great time though.
I'm gonna keep this quick. My cousins decided one day that they were gonna make me uncomfortable by taking me around the bougie Caucasians because he did the outside grills for him. He worked for the company that
Mm-hmm.
did their outside grill. So we go over
Mm-hmm.
there, and it's my birthday on this particular day. It is my birthday, and my cousin and his wife were sitting there amazed that I got along with everybody so well because basically by the end of the party, I took it over and turned it into my birthday party. The food was good. The cornhole game was fire. I was winning left and right, knocking them out the box. What you talking about? I had everybody up out their seat dancing. And they were like, "Oh my God, bring your cousin back anytime. She's such a light." Do you know these people went and found a cake to put some candles on for my birthday? They ain't never met me a day in their life. Never met me a day in their life. Never ever
Oh
saw
man,
me again. But I remember my birthday at their house.
right? That's what's up. And I like stories like that because you know you be thinking something and then you get surprised. You know what I'm saying? But I like when shit like that happens because you know a lot of times there's a lot of unnecessary shit that happens in this country, which I really don't want to mention. But everyone listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't know. I'm about to make me something to eat. I'll probably get on host a TikTok live. Um, I don't know if we're gonna have AAA podcast sports this week. Hope we do. If so, I will definitely be there Wednesday or Thursday, 7:30, 8 p.m. If not, catch me back here next week with Faith Lies and Confusion, more religious topics. I just have to think of one, or hopefully, I'll find some ideas. Maybe NJ can come up with some. Who knows? But we'll definitely be back. Thank you again, NJ. Your input is definitely needed and help. You're very helpful, very informative. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Happy Mother's Day, everyone, and good night. NJ, don't get off. I'm gonna show you that website too. If I can get this going.